Hey, Psalm, peace be upon you and welcome. Great to have you here. This is part 2, Creating Psychological Safety, a follow up of the reflection notes I shared and thoughts on pain in the last video. I left the cliffhanger question of how can we create and apply psychological safety in pain. So I will attempt to share some thoughts and reflections I have been mulling over post migraine stroke pain hangover, as I call it. For those unfamiliar with the uniquely individual, isolated, uncharted terrains of pain, and in solidarity with those who know too well the thorny paths, it is a strange there, but not quite there, lingering sensation of having been to the depths of somewhere profoundly altering, yet settling into a newfound space or place that one is coming around from. The first thing that I notice is a feeling and sense of expansiveness, which I connect to the name of God, Al-Basit, and that sets in following the constriction, which is the word kabid. So also there are these are these are two beautiful names or attributes of God, Al-Basit and Al-Kabid. I was able to breathe this morning with relative ease, for which I am so deeply moved and grateful, and that provided moments of awe and joy, along with thinking deeply about the cyclical nature of suffering, knowing only too well that it is not too long before another bout of discomfort at best, or mind-altering, glass-shattering pain that could hammer home in any form. I am not alone. Virtually everyone I know is in some degree of suffering. Some of the closest and most beloved to me suffer physically, mentally, spiritually, environmentally, internally, externally, so intensely and chronically that I cannot help but be left wondering on both the isolating and universal experiential nature of this topic regularly, and how to cultivate feelings of emotional and psychological safety. One way for me has been that I have begun to write, not for anyone, but just a place to air thoughts in what can otherwise feel like long-term suffocation. I am not too bothered as I once was about the style or perfection or academic level or even being well written or having beautiful grammar or ordered in a particular way, or even in making videos based on those articles. I guess that is what has freed me. It does not matter to me whether this is read or watched or listened to now or in 100 years or when I no longer exist, but perhaps my writing or my thoughts or videos or something may remain and may have some value for somebody or may have an impact in some way. For me, I will write raw and from my heart, and I will speak raw and from my heart, and that's my personal commitment. As a side note, I would like to share this. In recent months, I've heard from a few people saying that they are too afraid to write or share, and that they're not academic enough. I will say this: it took me decades until recently, as this July 2024, to start writing and publishing beyond the restricted academic world, which, by the way, I was far from fond of and caused me no end of grief writing that PhD thesis. So if you're interested, you can read about my journey or listen to the video, which is on this channel, if you want to hear about my educational woes. In a world that's becoming increasingly automated and infused with AI generated content, I think we're being starved of raw, natural, real, heartfelt words and experience that cannot be generated but emerge and develop through feeling, embodiment, experience, sensing. So my message to anyone listening to this would be write or share or narrate in audio form or create videos, or do whatever you feel that helps you in that process and that may help and add value to others. So whoever you are, however you are, we don't need to be perfect, right? We need to keep replanting the world's content with raw, genuine words of real experiences, not the shiny, so-called clean, Instagram-ready, glossy posts and AI-formed words, right? So not that there's anything necessarily wrong with those tools, depending on how it's used and with what intent and purpose. It can be helpful for people to use AI, myself included, so I'm not diminishing it. I just think real, raw, real experiences could be shared and encouraged more of. And not everything will resonate or be helpful for everyone. It might help one person though, right? So that's what I like to think and hope. So back to psychological safety we go. What is psychological safety? So these are just some random raw thoughts with no destination while I travel through my mind, and I share these. So when I first wrote this, I basically was just having a go at writing what I think this is, what psychological safety could look like, drawing on various readings and research, thoughts, insights, and experiences, in the hope to make it more accessible and less like a rigid sort of final sounding definition from a journal paper. I hope to convey something relatable that involves an iterative process of ongoing work that we can personalize to our own context and think through in our own ways and how it applies to us. In essence, we can think of psychological safety as a felt sense and knowingness that it is safe to express how we feel and what matters to us without fear of judgment, being diminished, disregarded, gaslit, or someone telling us our reality is not reality. No arguments, no debates. It's when our emotions are held by us and those in relation to us with deep care. Basically, our nervous system feels calm. If it is activated, know that it is highly likely that psychological safety is compromised, actual or perceived. It does not mean that at appropriate times when the volume of intensity is turned down or safety is established and felt, that we cannot reflect different perspectives to help support, guide and growth. I think one of the major failings of some of the modern day approaches to counselling and therapy are this idea of just listen and accept everything as it is. This, in my view, is an injustice and a lazy approach, quite frankly, to fellow brothers and sisters in humanity. Of course, there needs to be wisdom in how we speak and when and what is appropriate or not for who and when, and context matters greatly. Sadly, in the absence of teaching and cultivating nurturing wisdom and instead churning out quick courses and quickly qualified people, then, well, we get what we get. This is not how we should be working, where tender nurturance and care is required. Working with emotional safety is nothing short of brain surgery. That's what I think. We must be caring and thoughtful what nerves, quote unquote, that we touch there, right? So with the deep wisdom that was taught through the prophetic ways, there has always been the idea of counsel and advice that is not a passive approach. We do not let a child walk into fire or in the road. Likewise, if we can prevent someone from harm, it is a fundamental principle of a believer to do so. The big question is how, when, and critically to create a safe relationship with someone where there is a reciprocity of care, of trust, of knowing that you sincerely wish well for each other, that it is coming from a good and God-centered place with deep wisdom and reflection, and you work on it together and you keep working on it. This relation can be any relationship, any person whom we are interacting with and in communication with. This feeling of safety will turn down the volume on our sympathetic nervous system, or what's come to be understood as the fight, flight, freeze fawn. It is my observation, but most of us live in a heightened state, constantly making this difficult, which is why lots of emotions seem to, quote unquote, fly off the handle quite quickly. Particularly in chaotic cities where there is a constant blaring of noise with several sounds, not just one, with glaring lights as if a constant disco, every billboard flashing lights, even menus at cafes now bright and flashing text rolling over fast, toxic smells under the guise of fruit-flavoured cigarettes fancified through new names appealing to kids, car parking hounds and constant surveillance, anything that can make money at the cost of human sanity and emotional safety. Countless times I have observed at a particular yellow box near where I live that people go into survival mode and are willing to risk hitting another car, ironically, but terrified to get into that yellow box with several menacing cameras looking down. It's a ridiculous design, but one I am sure makes thousands, if not millions of pounds a year. The cost of human life? Intense, heightened, toxic, chronic stressors which lead to inflammation and a whole host of diseases, as we know. Because let's face it, it's not just these. We have a million things stressing upon us. These examples are just some of the microaggressions we face in our days, or there will be something similar. Personally, I think it's a public health issue, but that's for another time. I think my point is impressed upon now, simply that our environment does not allow for us to calm, to downregulate. How can we then create safety in our environment? We need to collectively be thinking of these solutions daily. There is a constant onslaught of assault on our senses at all times, whether that is through pain, environmentally as mentioned, mentally, in relationships, worries around health inequalities, economic strains. It is constant. Some may fare better than others. If we have experienced trauma, if our central nervous system is compromised in any way, if we have a disability, a chronic illness, feel under pressure, are caring for others, are struggling with health or finance, we are far more likely to feel the intensity of these assaults on our systems. I liken it to constantly feeling like drowning with years of pressures and stresses from various situations and experiences with little room to keep the head above water. It makes it difficult if someone or thing or something throws another bucket, as it were. But there's not an iota of room sometimes to contain that water. If we have emptied some of that water, then despite the difficulty of having another bucket thrown at us, we may well have some capacity to cope with it and find our way. If, however, we are already drowning, where is the capacity? This is when we are in a crisis situation, and the sad thing is, some people occupy this place for long periods and never move out of this position. Yet through their faith, internal resources, or something remarkable, they hang in there, but at a cost, a huge human cost. Let's not forget, some people don't or can't hang in there, and we lose them. Everyone's internal and external resources are different. Another reason why we simply can't just judge someone. As I always say firmly, you can have all the faith in the world but still feel suicidal. You can have intense God consciousness and still be squeezed to death by pain. I know some wonderful people, faithful believers, Muslims, who sadly ended their life. The people who still think that people who are depressed or unable to move past their traumas are weak in faith, I would urge a reflection on this. I can tell you it is extremely damaging to say these words to someone, that their faith is weak, or they just need to read more Quran or pray. Don't say it, please. Save their life instead, through the warmth of your character that embodies the faith. Be their crutch, be their pillar, build them up, and watch when one day you see the fruits of that. God provides from sources we could never imagine. We do not know what bounties He will shower on us or others. The person you help may be your door to Jannah, heaven, or the person who helps us may be our door to Jannah. Reciprocity again. If we feel constantly attacked, unsafe emotionally, then our defenses will be up. Our fortress will be protected by defenses of self-preservation, which may be unhelpful techniques but benefit us in some circumstances for survival. However, most of us are not in a physical situation that requires survival in the sense we may think. The more pervasive attack and the lack of safety we experience is the emotional. In every moment, our body is picking up on signals on a cellular level. Our sensory organs are absorbing and computing so fast our environment. Are we accepted? Are we rejected? Are we included, excluded? Are we wanted? Might we be shamed or embarrassed? The communication and look on someone's face, is it friendly? Are they smiling? Are they still faced, frowning, angry, unpredictable, warm, safe? Think about all the people in your life who make you feel safe, truly safe, emotionally safe, where how you feel, your experiences, your interactions, your stories are heard without judgment, without attack, without questioning your reality in a way that makes you feel crazy. The next question we can ask ourselves is, are we safe for other people? I often say this when I teach my trauma and spirituality masterclass, that when we say salam, which in its broader meaning includes not just wishing peace upon someone, but well-being and soundness and safety and wholeness, does our behavior indicate the depth of salam? Are we speaking in, communicating in, verbally and non-verbally, a salam state? How consciously do we say salam? Salam but no warm smile? Our bodies literally are affected physiologically through the release of dopamine, endorphins, and serotonin when smiling, not to mention it is a prophetic way. Salam, but holding anger or hatred towards someone. What can we each do in our lives to truly embody salam? Try thinking of the full meaning and applying it next time you are greeting someone. So, sharing my thoughts on this had become longer than anticipated, though actually I did not know where this would go, which is nice and freeing. It was like taking a long drive with no destination as such. It's a nice new way for me to express, and I hope it encourages others too. I hope it was not too much of an arduous journey if you're still listening at this point, and instead I managed to take you on an insightful, thought-provoking journey with some interesting views. I will end with how I apply the 4 H's of God's names and attributes in my life. So there are 4 names that begin with H of Allah that I have found very, very beneficial and been incorporating in my life for the last couple of years. So in my own healing journey, I use different attributes of God to draw strength within. And at some point, I think around 2 years ago, some time ago, these what I call 4 H's seem to really solidify for me in a holistic, all-encompassing way, what felt like a solid fortress of protection. So it's Al-Hafiz, the one who protects, guidance, Al-Hadi, gentle, tender, forbearing, calm, abiding, kindness, Al-Halim, and wisdom, Al-Hakim. Al means in the Arabic. So together they offer a mighty umbrella against the torrent of trials, tests, and sensory assaults we experience on a daily, sometimes moment-by-moment level, especially when the nervous system is highly wired. Our brain signals perceive social threats such as rejection, betrayal, exclusion, criticism, shaming, for example, similarly to physical pain, activating areas of the anterior cingulate cortex, ACC in short, which is part of the limbic system and involved in the regulation of attention and emotion, inhibitory control, error monitoring, and motivation. Emotional pain is as real as physical pain. By drawing on the name Al-Hafiz, we are inviting in God's guardianship, protection. Feeling lost or worried about what is best in any given situation, we are in need of guidance, so we call upon Al-Hadi. In the harshness of emotional turbulence, rocky relationships, and/or upsetting or challenging circumstances, ill health, fatigue, we look for gentle, calm forbearance, and we ask Al-Halim to grant us that and help us to be that for ourselves and others. Ultimately, with everything that we need, what we need most is wisdom in how we navigate, so we connect with Al-Hakim. Together, these 4 create a solid, all-encompassing protection and fortification for our mind, body, soul. May God make us a source of comfort, ease, serenity, tranquility, sakina, salam, peacefulness, and blessing, barakah, to all those who come into contact with us, and bring those into our lives who will reciprocate and provide this, making us psychologically and emotionally safe for each other. As a dear special one in my life showed me, one plank at a time. When it's too scary to look down the unknown path of uncertainty, then let us together place one plank at a time, and if we find splinters, we commit to pulling them out together. This is how we hold each other together in what can be a frightening and scary disconnected world. So let's commit to cultivating emotional safety within us and for those around us, in the hope we can shift from these states of survival, pain, and suffering to thriving and flourishing, so that we may add something of value to this world we briefly inhabit. I will share finally I think it's from a poem or a quote that this special person shared with me by Emily Dickinson. So the words are: I stepped from plank to plank, so slowly and cautiously, the stars about my head I felt, about my feet the sea. I knew not but the next would be my final inch. This gave me that precarious gait some call experience. Okay, I hope that you enjoyed that and learned something from it and are able to apply something in your life. And in particular drawing on those names for emotional safety. Take care, and love and prayers as always, and catch you next time.